to me. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
If you'd like to be seated just for a few moments. On the table there, just on the sanctuary, there are a few gifts of significance, just mementos of Phyllis's life, and there's one of them, I have to say, when I visited her wake on Thursday evening, I was heartened by one thing that's there, and I'm glad to see them there, and that's her prayer books. And what lifts my heart about them is their well-worn state, because that's evidence that they have been used, as evidence that Phyllis was a person of prayer, and that in turn is evidence that she engaged with that task which lies at the heart of our Christian calling, the task of learning how to turn to God and how to trust in God as we make our way through life. From the reminiscences that Siobhan kindly shared with me, I learned that Phyllis originated in Ardmore in Derry just before the Second World War. She was the eldest of 4 children, and the tone of what was said suggested that she had a happy childhood. There's one particular memory that was shared of her winning this beautiful doll at a family day organized by American forces in the Beach Hill. That would have been obviously during the war, and because she was the child who looked most like the doll, she won this beautiful doll, which is a nice wee tribute. And certainly as the photos in that remarkable book, which is also among our gifts that Siobhan put together, was it for her 80th birthday? Phyllis certainly, she was a lovely looking child and a lovely looking woman, but there was a lot more to her than that. She was an intelligent child, and as I think she was in that first group of children to do the 11 plus, I think you could include the likes of Seamus Heaney and John Hume in that generation. And that led her to going to the commercial school in Derry, where she learned her shorthand typing itself, bookkeeping, and that basically enabled her to get employment first in a solicitor's office and then in the commercial union insurance company. And aside from that sort of work, she had a creative side too, which I think engaged her throughout her whole life in terms of cooking and gardening and flower arranging. And she had other interests as well, like antiques and shopping, and like everybody else, she enjoyed very much spotting a bargain. But beyond these sort of talents and interests, there lay a deeper character trait, one that's much more remarkable, and that was that instinct that she had to look out for others. And that is something, I'm not saying that you have to be a Christian to have that trait, but it definitely squares perfectly with Christian faith, this idea of looking out for others, because as we know, the Christian life is not a self-serving life. You think about it, it was of no personal benefit to Jesus Christ to give his life. He did so for us. And in response to that generosity, we are called to imitate him, to give our time and our talents and our goodwill to others. And that's what Phyllis did. She did that in the context of marriage and family life. In 1968, she married Billy, and she gave birth to 6 children, one of whom, baby John, died shortly after birth. And it was this family life, that particular vocation, that drew her away from her work with the commercial union. Although she did mix work in the family business here in Clady with her tasks as a wife and as a mother. And even in working in the pub and in the shop, she's remembered for that caring for others, that genuine care that she showed for her customers. But I would imagine that it's in relation to family life that her selflessness is undoubtedly best remembered. And in the reminiscences that were shared to me, I certainly got a picture of someone whose desire it was to create a joyful and a relaxed atmosphere, someone who loved nothing more than to be surrounded by her family, children, grandchildren, loved ones, and all the buzz and the banter that that brings. And as well as that, Phyllis reared her children, trying as best she could to instill in them her own values, prominent among which, of course, are working hard and looking out for others. As I say, values very much at the heart of Christianity. Now, another thing on the table there is a wee plaque. I think this is her granddaughter made her, of St. Teresa, the little flower. And that wasn't just a devotion that that Phyllis had. Rather, it was, she actually tried to enter into the spirit of St. Teresa in terms of the little way. And it was part of her practice, her sort of intention to do little things for people. I can forget who it was, but even the attention to detail. Somebody was at a son-in-law or something from Oma, and whenever he visited, there was a copy of the Ulster Herald there. That wee attention to detail, to do small things. And we all know in life it's not the major gesture or whatever, the grand gesture that touches the heart very often. It's the small things that make such a difference, and that sort of thing indicates a compassionate and a loving heart. As well as practicing that little way of St. Teresa, Phyllis also practiced prayer, as I say, we have evidence of that in the worn prayer books. Now, for a lot of us, prayer can be a backs against the wall exercise, in terms of you don't do it for a while and you do whenever you need to. And I think that's, some people sort of look down their nose on that. I think that's fine as a start.